Hello, my name is Lee Presser. This is my show. I speak frequently to very interesting people. Some of these conversations are so exciting, so intellectually stimulating, I thought others might like to listen in. This is the reason we started recording Conversation with Lee Presser.
Welcome to Conversation with Lee Presser. My guest today is Dr. Robert Daiber, Regional Superintendent of Schools for Madison County, Illinois. Dr. Daiber is here today to discuss a proposal which will appear on the April 5th, 2011 ballot. At that election, Madison County, Illinois citizens will be asked to vote for or against the county school facilities tax. Details about this ballot issue are the topic of today's discussion. Please listen closely to this information. You will be tested on April 5th. Dr. Daiber, welcome to Conversation.
Thank you.
And they will be, won't they?
That's true.
They actually have to make an informed decision on that date. So let's, first of all, educate them as to what the issues are.
The issue that they'll be voting on is whether or not they will approve a 1-cent sales tax for school facility construction.
I believe that the wording on that is, shall Madison County be authorized to impose a retailer's occupation tax and a service occupation tax, commonly referred to as sales tax, at a rate of 1% to be used exclusively for school facilities purposes. Is that correct?
That is correct, Lee. And that's exactly the wording that voters will see. The intent and purpose of it is that the 1 cent per $1 or 1% goes to a special fund, and it goes to each school district, and it's divided by per pupil enrollment. And that money is held in a specific fund that provides for school construction, school renovations to existing buildings. We are always concerned about having quality facilities for our children to live in. We look at this as a means of alternative funding for public education, especially for school buildings, as opposed to our traditional way in which we've passed bond referendums based on property taxes. Mm-hmm. Okay? The unique thing about this particular issue is that this allows for school districts to abate some property taxes in which they can return savings actually back to the homeowners. We currently in Madison County, all the 10 school districts who have supported this initiative have passed board resolutions to abate at least 51% of the revenues received from the facility sales tax as a means of property tax abatement.
In plain English, what is that going to mean to the average property tax payer?
It means if your home is assessed at about $100,000, your tax bill will be $100 less.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And this tax that you're collecting is a sales tax. Well, you're not collecting it, actually. I mean, the schools have nothing to do with this. This goes through the regular process. Right. But the tax that's being collected is a sales tax. So in other words, when you go to the not the grocery store, but you go to McDonald's or some other restaurant, and then at the end when they put tax on there, part of that tax is going to be going into this fund, correct?
That is correct. Currently, sales tax in the state of Illinois is charged to many items, including groceries. But this sales tax does not apply to groceries or pharmaceuticals, over-the-counter medications, or to automobiles or SUVs, trucks. Also does not apply to farm equipment or farm inputs. Okay, it taxes other consumer goods, such as I buy a new suit, or I buy a shirt and a tie, or prepared foods, such as you mentioned. You go to a restaurant, you buy a cup of coffee. If that cup of coffee cost you $1, it would cost you $1.01. And that's where the revenues come from this. Believe it or not, 1 cent on $1 in Madison County will generate about $20 million annually in revenues. Okay, mm-hmm. Which is a good stream of revenue as another source of funding, other than relying upon strictly a property tax system. And that's the significance of it, is because of the amount of revenue that is generated by this. I think it's important for listeners to realize that about 33% of our total sales tax revenue in Madison County come from non-county residents. And so that is the basis by which schools have been able to generate some means to give some of this sales tax back to residents in a form of property tax relief.
Mm-hmm. You're putting this on the ballot for April 5th of 2011. Why haven't you done this before?
Well,
what's changed, I guess?
This originally passed the state legislature as Public Act 950675 in 2007. Okay, at that time, the school districts looked at whether or not we should move forward with this, and the time did not seem right initially because we were a little bit uncertain as to how it was going to work. Okay, so the first county in Illinois that passed this was Williamson County, and it's a good model county in southern Illinois to look at as to how it provided for better facilities to be built in their county, as well as giving some property tax relief to their homeowners. And we also watched it pass in 8 other counties, including Champaign County and most recently Macon County. So we took an opportunity of kind of standing back on the issue, analyzing how it worked in other places before we moved forward on it. We felt that this was the right time. I guess there's never a good time when you're going to the voters on an issue that involves taxation. We felt this was the right time because this is a school election. This isn't a general election such as we had in the fall of 2010, or you had a presidential election in 2008, when there's so many other issues that are being discussed and there's so many other people that have platforms and initiatives that they are bringing forth. This is a single issue being presented to the voters at the time of a school election, in which it should capture their attention, and hopefully we can inform them with factual information. The issue doesn't get clouded with political rhetoric, and they can make an informed decision as to whether or not they support this initiative.
Before you were the superintendent of schools for Madison County, you were a member of the county board. What's their position on this issue?
Well, the county board hasn't actually been asked to take a position on it. Last December 15th, the ballot question had to be ratified by the county board. So it was presented to them, and it did pass through the county board, but they were not asked to take a position as a board. They will be asked, though, according to current statutory law, that if this passes, then to take a position on it, to either enact the law or to deny it.
So they don't. So even if it passes, and as I understand it, it actually takes 51%. You can't have 50 plus,
that's right,
plus one vote. It has to be 51% of those who are voting. So if 51% of the people vote for this, then the county board is the fail-safe. They make the decision yay or nay on this?
They will, according to statutory provisions currently, yes. Okay. I will tell you that there is cleanup language in the Illinois General Assembly that if it would pass between now and April 5th, that they may not have to do that. That the public's vote would be final word on this.
What's the thing? I know that's a separate issue. What was the thinking with the legislature that they put this fail-safe in the hands of a county board?
I believe the intent was to allow for local control, to allow county boards to have the final say whether or not it was enacted in their county. Mm-hmm. I personally uphold the will of the people. You know, if the general public votes on this and votes in favor of it, then myself as an elected official, whether I'd be on that board or serving in the capacity of a county-wide official, I would support their will.
So the process so far has been that the state passed a law, and it says that if certain things happen in a county, then this goes on the board. Just briefly go over all the things that needed to happen before you got to the ballot.
Well, first of all, in order for this to be a question on the ballot, 51% of the student body population must be represented by school districts to pass resolutions to put this question on the ballot, in which we had 10 of the 13 districts in Madison County pass resolutions. Those resolutions, which were passed by those school boards then, were presented to the county board to be ratified. Okay, the board must have recognized that we presented those. It was not a vote in favor or against by that county board. Once it was ratified then by the board, then it was presented to the county clerk. Okay, the county clerk then reviewed it, verified the fact that the petitions were filed, and then the question is to be placed on the ballot.
How many students do you have in Madison County?
In public schools, around 43,000.
And it's public schools that we're talking about.
That's right. That's right.
What about the Catholic schools or any of the other private or charter schools?
They were not asked to pass resolutions.
Do they benefit from this?
No, they do not. They do not factor into the equation.
So we're only talking about public school systems.
That is
and you
correct.
say there's 13 of them in the county?
13 current school districts in Madison County, yes.
So as I understand it, I think maybe you said it, that 10 said yes, so that left 3 saying no. Who were the 3 that disagreed?
The 3 that did not pass resolutions were Collinsville, Edwardsville, and East Alton Wood River High School District.
And what was their reasoning that they didn't want to be included in this?
The East Alton Wood River High School District didn't take a position on it. They just were more or less passive on it.
That's a pretty small entity.
Small entity of it,
like,
right.
I think it represents about 2% of the population
that
of
is correct.
students.
Edwardsville District 7, in my conversations with their administration, said they just felt it wasn't the right time. And for that reason, they were not going to support the initiative.
That was Edwardsville.
Edwardsville District 7, right. Collinsville Community Unit School District opposed the idea simply because they oppose sales tax as a means of funding.
Mm-hmm.
So.
But it is true, though, that Edwardsville and Collinsville combined equal about 1/3 of the total number of students, just those 2 districts?
Approximately, yes.
Right. So they have a lot at stake here.
That is true.
So the way that this process works is that there's going to be this ballot on April 5th. 51% of the people either will vote yay or they won't.
That's correct.
And if they do, then what's the procedure after that?
If they vote yay, we will move forward with then presenting it to the county board for ratification. Once it's ratified, then it'll be reported to the Illinois Department of Revenue.
You sound like you're pretty sure of the county board's position.
If it passes strongly, I could not imagine the county board denying it.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
If it was a close vote, I could see maybe some county board members wanting to challenge it, as happened in Macon County. But eventually they passed it as well.
Okay.
So as I said, I think elected officials normally uphold the will of the people. Okay. So let's proceed if it passes.
Yes.
Okay.
So it's got to pass the county board.
It's got to pass the county board. There'd be notification of the Illinois Department of Revenue, and then this would be enacted on January 1, 2012, in which revenues would begin to be collected. At the same time, if it passes in April 5th, and this is a good thing about this, is when school districts begin to prepare their budgets and levies for the forthcoming year, they would factor in this revenue. Okay, and our districts who have passed resolutions, such as the Alton district recently did, agreeing to refund 60% of this as a savings to residents, they would then calculate this into their levy to be presented next December. Okay, so school districts would then begin receiving monthly dividends from this beginning after January 1st of 2012.
So let's discuss what's this money for, because it is for some things, it is definitely not for other things.
That's correct. This money can only be used for school facilities or related materials for those facilities, such as land.
Be specific about what do you mean by facilities?
You could purchase land with it, okay, for building a school. You could build a new building with it. You could renovate an existing building, such as put on a new roof or repair doors. It also is for any of the school facilities, such as parking lot, okay, sidewalks, handicap accessibility, many of the things we commonly identify in the school levy as health, life, safety measures. Okay, you could do an addition onto a school. Okay, it cannot be used for the following: it cannot be used to pay teacher salaries, school administrator salaries, or any custodial salaries or maintenance salaries. You cannot pay a school maintenance program to do building construction work, for example. You'd have to pay a contractor. It can't be used for school supplies. You can't buy floor wax with it. You can't buy light bulbs with it. You cannot buy school desk, our computers, our textbooks, our school furnishings of any nature.
Can you build a computer room?
You could, yes, you could. You could add on a school facility for computer access. Yes, you could.
Right. So not the computers, but the room with all the wiring.
That is correct.
Not the monitors.
That is correct. So if you were going to build an addition onto a school, maybe it's a library, maybe it's an auditorium, maybe it's 2 additional classrooms because your school grew, okay? Yes, you could. Or maybe your cafeteria needs renovation. Or we still have schools in some parts of our county that are not air conditioned. Could it be used for air conditioning? Most definitely. Okay.
Now, why the change from what is right now an individual district's responsibility to come up with the money to do these things that you say the facilities tax will do, to this more generalized use of sales tax in order to allow them to have money to do that?
Okay. Well, you know, forevermore, Lee, school districts have financed construction by one source of revenue. It's property taxes.
Right.
Okay. Property.
Well, not just one. I mean, they get state funding. Sometimes they get a little bit of federal funding, and that's when the state's actually paying.
Right. Well, the reliability of state school construction money has not been real reliable. Okay.
Right.
So this is a avenue in which schools can explore another avenue to have revenue for school construction rather than wait for school construction bond, for example. It's an avenue in which you do not have to rely upon the voters approving an ongoing referendum for a school addition or school construction, which increases your tax rate. I mean, when you go to you pass a building bond referendum, whether it's in District 7 or District 2 or District 5, wherever it is in Madison County, you're going to the voters and you're saying, look, we need to do this building addition. We want you to pass an extra 5 cents or 10 cents or 20 cents or whatever it is it's going to cost. This gives an ongoing means of revenue for school construction. And even with the refund that school districts will be giving in property taxes, we're looking annually of putting $5 to $9 million into new construction to have and continue to have very good facilities which attract residents to our county. You know,
is this $9 million a lot of money? I mean, across all these districts, or is that
$9 million is $9 million.
Right.
Yes, it's a lot of money. I mean, a new school, if you were to build a new elementary school today, you'd probably be talking $25 to $30 million for a very basic elementary building. Okay, if you're a school district and many districts bond 20 years or longer to build that building, this money also gives you bonding capacity for long-term projects such as that. So if you can bank some of this money for a number of years, you have that revenue available, you know what I mean, to bond against or to pay down existing bonds that you may have incurred.
Now, you just mentioned paying down. I believe that Edwardsville, when they made their statement, the Edwardsville board said that we're not interested in this, but if it does pass, we're going to take 100% of the money that they get through this facility tax and I guess pay off bonds. Is that, am I reading that correctly?
Well, what they said was that they would take 100% of the money and they would give it back to the residents as tax abatement. Okay. So they're going to take their revenue that they get from this, and they're going to more or less just reduce their tax rate with it to the residents. So they will pay down bonds with it. Okay, I assume is how they're going to, you know, I mean, abate the.
So they are going to pay something down. This is not like money. Everybody's not getting a check in the mail.
Well, it will show up on their property tax bill. Okay, they won't actually pay down bonds with it because they said they're going to abate 100%. So they're not going to use any of it for paying down bonds. Okay, they're going to use their existing revenues to pay their bonds down, but inadvertently they will just refund this to the homeowners.
So is this in addition to the $100 per 100,000 that you mentioned, or is this a little bit more than $100 per $100,000.
It will be about $100 per 100,000 assessed valuation for District 7. I think it's actually $98 if I remember the formula.
Mm-hmm. One of the other things that I read, because I got some data from Edwardsville, they sent it over knowing we were going to have this conversation. So I guess it's time to bring out some of the other things. They're big producers of sales tax, along with Collinsville, and that and I think you mentioned that Collinsville has some objections because they don't want that affecting their business district. So Edwardsville and Collinsville, you're collecting 1% off of these allowed items. It gets put into a pool. Then you said you had how many students in the district?
In the county?
Yes.
About 43,000.
So then I guess you divide that number by 43,000, and then that's X number of dollars, and so each district gets so much per student. Is that?
That is correct.
So some of the monies that are being collected in Edwardsville and Collinsville, above and beyond, are actually being transferred off to these smaller districts that aren't generating sales tax.
Well,
or as much
the one thing
tax.
that really needs to be clarified about generating the revenue, okay? Edwardsville is a great place of commerce.
Yes.
And there's people throughout Madison County. You don't have to be a District 7 resident to shop in Edwardsville, and I don't think the Chamber of Commerce would want that advocated, you know. So myself, I'm not a resident of District 7, but I do about 80% of my shopping here, okay? And so do...
So you want your money back,
right,
what you're saying.
So my money follows me. I have 2 students that are in the Triad District. So it doesn't bother me. I mean, I think it's only fair, I mean, that the money's equally divided. Alton is the largest producer of sales tax revenue in Madison County. They generate the most.
That's the boat out there, I guess.
Well, whatever it is.
Yeah.
But they generate the largest amount of sales tax revenue, and theirs is divided equally. You know, and I really commend Dave Elson, superintendent of Alton Schools. Dave says, you know, every student deserves a good school to attend. And
they're very strong advocates.
That's right, very strong in this. And he said, every student deserves a quality school to go to, and this is one way to help students, no matter where they live, attend a quality school.
Is passing this 1% tax going to give the legislature some idea that, oh, well, there's a savings. We don't have to get into the business of providing more construction funds to local districts?
I don't believe so, and I'll tell you why. The legislature passed this public act.
Right.
And knew the intent of the Public Act when it was passed. And their intent was to provide a basic means of revenue to begin school construction. And I don't think they look at abandoning, you know, the school construction program because of this passing. Remember, there's a great deal of work to get this passed. And the very fact that for them to just say, hey, once this is in place, we don't need to be part of the equation anymore, I don't think is any longer true. Okay, because of the very fact that there are many areas that are going to need the assistance from the state.
We've got about 4 minutes left here, so I want you to just go forward with anything that has been yet to be said. I want you to go ahead and talk about it right now.
Well, I want to go back real quick and revisit something about
go right ahead.
Equalization of the spending of the money, a collection of the money and spending it.
Yes.
You know, schools have never factored into the sales tax equation. Okay. And the most fair and most equitable way for this to be done is by student head count, okay? Because of where the money follows the student to their particular school. So it is felt by many people that is fair and it is equitable. The other thing about it, Lee, is that each student in Madison County, each day they go to school, wants to go to a nice school facility. And every parent that goes looking at schools, their first impression of the school often makes a decision where they're going to buy the house, where they're going to settle. And any family that has children will tell you, when I've been out meeting with individuals on this issue, I said, why did you move where you did? And they say, well, it was the school, it was the quality of the school. So we believe this is a great factor that can bring more development into Madison County for the future. This is
in areas other than where growth is now.
In areas other than where growth is now. Madison County is a great place to live. I'm one of the strongest public advocates for moving to Madison County, raising kids here, and we know in order for this to happen, we have to have good schools from the river all the way to our eastern borders of our county, and from St. Clair County to Macoupin County, etc. We want all of our schools to have great appearances. So,
what percentage of students are on the east side of 159? Is that a small percentage?
On the east side of 159? Well, you know, Edwardsville School District is in the equation.
Well, I mean,
you know,
when you start getting further out, is there much out there?
Yes, there is. You've got the Triad District and you've got the Highland District. So those, I'd have to say, compose about 14%.
Mm-hmm. And there's, you know, okay. What else?
Well, last, this is a way for residents in Madison County to save on their property taxes and have quality facilities. And
are you going to be running a regular campaign?
Yes,
on this?
we are.
Tell us about your campaign.
We've established a campaign. We have a headquarters at 108 Magnolia in Glen Carbon. It's in that
Say that again?
108 Magnolia, Suite A. It's located in Glen Carbon. It's in the business community park there, right behind like the Bank of Edwardsville. Mm-hmm. It's a branch. Residents are willing to stop in there to get additional information. Okay.
Signs.
Signs, yes. Or we're also they'll be receiving literature in the mail from our campaign, which is Citizens for Property Tax Relief and Quality Schools. So they will be an informed voter come April 5th. Okay. And I think the bottom line is here on April 5th, residents are going to go to the polls and they're going to vote. And then they're going to vote on whether they want their tax rate to be maybe $4 and a penny, or they want to maintain it to be $4.31. I think that's the bottom line message. If you vote yes for this, you're going to lower your tax rate. If you vote no, you're going to be paying property taxes as we always have, and life is going to continue just the way it is. Okay? There's been many people that have talked about ways in which we begin to change school funding reform. It's a topic that's just beat to death. This is step one, I think, when you're open-minded.
That's about it. That's about the time we have. Dr. Daiber, thank you very much for coming here today. Good luck on this proposal that will be before the citizens of Madison County on October 5th. Okay. To my audience, hopefully you were listening. This is a test. You will be tested on April 5th about your knowledge on this. I believe you really need to look at the literature. Spend some time thinking about this. You'll be getting stuff both on the yes and the no side. This is a very complicated issue, one in which you're going to be making some critical decisions, because once you start down this path, I suspect that if they find that sales tax works for schools, who knows, there might be more sales taxes to come along. I can't say, but you need to study up. Thank you for being with us. To my regulars, we'll see you next Monday. Thank you.